The full moon cast silver light through the pine trees as Maya raced between shadows, her keen senses alert to every sound in the forest. Something was wrong tonight. The scent of blood, human blood, drifted on the cool mountain breeze, pulling her toward her private cabin. Maya slowed her pace, amber eyes glowing in the darkness as she scented the air again. She had protected this territory for 3 years, since becoming leader of the Ridgewood Pack. Humans rarely ventured this deep into the mountains, and when they did, she made sure they quickly found reasons to leave. But this scent was different, desperate, fading. She shifted seamlessly from wolf to human form, her bare feet silent against the damp forest floor. Following the trail, she discovered a crumpled figure half hidden among fallen leaves. A man lay unconscious, his breathing shallow, a deep gash across his torso, and his leg bent at an unnatural angle. "Great," she muttered, "just what I need." His clothes marked him as one of the settlers from the new town that had sprung up on the eastern edge of werewolf territory. Their kind brought nothing but trouble, cutting trees, hunting game, pushing boundaries that had stood for generations. Maya knelt beside him, assessing his injuries. He would die without help. The smart decision would be to walk away, to let nature take its course. One less human to worry about. But something in his face, peaceful despite his pain, made her hesitate. This is a mistake, she told herself, even as she gently lifted him. He was heavy, but her supernatural strength made carrying him back to her cabin easy. Inside, she laid him on her bed and gathered her healing supplies. Herbs and tinctures passed down through her pack for centuries. As she cleaned his wounds, his eyes fluttered open, deep blue and confused. "Am I dead?" he whispered, his voice rough. "Not yet," Maya replied, "though you're trying your best. You saved me. Don't make me regret it." He tried to sit up but grimaced in pain. "I'm Ethan West." Maya ignored him, pressing a cloth soaked in healing herbs against his wound. "This will hurt." He hissed but didn't cry out as the medicine burned into the gash. Impressive for a human. "Do you have a name?" he asked when the pain subsided. "Maya," she answered reluctantly. "Now stop talking. You need rest." Dawn approached by the time she finished treating his wounds. His fever had broken and his breathing steadied. He would survive. Maya sat by the window, watching the stars fade as the sky lightened. Having a human in her home was dangerous. If her pack discovered what she'd done. "Why did you help me?" Ethan asked, startling her. She thought he was asleep. Maya considered the question, unsure herself why she hadn't left him to die. "Everyone deserves a chance," she finally said. "Even settlers who trespass where they don't belong." What neither of them knew was that in the small settlement beyond the forest, search parties were already forming, and their discovery in her cabin would soon force both their lives onto a path neither had chosen. 3 days passed like whispers in the forest. Maya changed Ethan's bandages each morning, her fingers gentle despite her stern expression. His wounds healed faster than any human should, a curious side effect of her remedies that made her increasingly nervous. "You should be dead," she told him bluntly while checking the gash that had already formed a thin scar. That wound would have killed most men. Ethan watched her with intelligent eyes that seemed to absorb everything. "Then I'm fortunate you found me." Sunlight filtered through the cabin windows, catching in Maya's dark hair as she worked. Ethan found himself studying the way she moved. Efficient, graceful, always alert. There was something wild about her that both terrified and fascinated him. "Why do you live alone out here?" he asked, sitting up with only a slight wince. Maya's hands stilled. "I don't answer questions about myself." "Fair enough," he smiled slightly. "Then I'll tell you about me instead. I'm a surveyor for the settlement. I was mapping the eastern ridge when something attacked me." "Something?" "I never saw it clearly," Ethan admitted. "It moved too fast. All I remember are eyes, glowing blue in the darkness." Maya frowned. Blue eyes meant it wasn't one of her pack. Something else roamed these mountains, something that had territory rights to settle. Their quiet conversation fractured at the sound of distant voices. Maya's head snapped toward the window, her body instantly tense. "Humans," she whispered, her tone making the word sound like a curse. "Many of them." Ethan struggled to his feet despite her protests. "They must be searching for me." "You need to hide," Maya hissed, pushing him toward the back room. "Why would I?" "Maya Knightwood." A deep voice called from outside. "This is Sheriff Porter. We know you're in there. Open this door." Heavy knocks rattled the wooden door. Maya's mind raced through escape routes, but it was too late. If she fled now, they would hunt her down, and the truth about her nature might be discovered. With reluctance carved into every line of her face, she opened the door. The sheriff stood flanked by 5 men with rifles. Behind them, a small crowd from the settlement had gathered, their expressions a mix of curiosity and hostility. "Where is he?" the sheriff demanded. "I'm here," Ethan called, limping forward to stand beside Maya. "She saved my life." Whispers erupted among the crowd. A woman pushed forward, Elder Sarah, whose tight-lipped frown was known throughout the settlement. "Living alone with an unmarried woman," Sarah said, disgust dripping from every word. "And a mountain witch at that." "I'm not a witch," Maya said evenly, though the alternative truth was far more dangerous. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "The council has been summoned. Both of you will appear before them tomorrow. Until then, Mr. West comes with us." Ethan surprised everyone by placing his hand on Maya's shoulder. "I owe this woman my life. I won't have her name tarnished for an act of kindness." "Then you should have thought before spending 3 nights under her roof," Elder Sarah snapped. "There's only one way to preserve both your reputations now." Maya felt the trap closing around her, a cage far more confining than any made of steel. "What way?" Ethan asked, though something in his voice suggested he already knew the answer. The sheriff looked between them, his expression grim. "Marriage. By town law and custom." As the crowd murmured its approval, Maya's amber eyes flashed with something dangerous. The human world was forcing her into a corner, and cornered wolves were the most dangerous kind of all. The town hall buzzed with whispers as Maya stood before the settlement council. 5 stern-faced elders seated behind a wooden table. Sunlight streamed through dusty windows, illuminating dancing dust particles that seemed more free than she felt at this moment. Ethan stood beside her, his posture straight despite his healing injuries. His presence both irritated and comforted her, an unwelcome contradiction. "Miss Knightwood," Elder Sarah began, her voice sharp enough to cut through the murmurs. "You've lived on the outskirts of our community for 3 years, keeping to yourself and practicing unusual remedies." "I've broken no laws," Maya replied, fighting to keep her voice, even when every instinct urged her to growl. The eldest councilman, Joseph, leaned forward. "Until now, harboring a man in your home without chaperone violates our community standards." Ethan stepped forward. "With respect, I was unconscious and gravely injured. Maya saved my life using her knowledge of medicinal herbs." "Curious how quickly you healed, Mr. West," Elder Sarah noted, suspicion lacing her words. "Some might call such recovery unnatural." Maya felt cold fear slide down her spine. They were too close to dangerous questions. "The council has reached a decision," Joseph announced. "To preserve both your reputations and the moral fabric of our community, you must marry within 3 days, or Miss Knightwood will be banished from these territories." The room spun around Maya. Banishment would mean leaving her pack's ancestral lands, abandoning her responsibilities as their leader. "And if I refuse?" she challenged, amber eyes flashing. "Then we'll need to examine exactly what methods you used to heal Mr. West so rapidly," the sheriff interjected from the side of the room. "Folks are already talking about witchcraft." A tense silence filled the hall. Accusations of witchcraft could lead to far worse than banishment. "I accept." Ethan's voice cut through the silence, surprising everyone. Maya most of all. Her head whipped toward him. "What are you doing?" she whispered fiercely. His blue eyes met hers, resolute and calm. "Repaying a debt. You saved my life. I'm saving yours." Outside, after the council dismissed them, Maya paced like a caged animal while Ethan watched from the steps of the town hall. "You had no right," she hissed, keeping her voice low despite her fury. "I would rather leave than be chained to a human marriage." "Would you?" Ethan asked quietly. "Leave your home, because something tells me this land means more to you than you're saying." Maya stopped pacing, studying him with newfound wariness. This man saw too much. 3 days, he continued. "The ceremony happens in 3 days, which gives us time." "Time for what?" "To find whatever attacked me in the forest," Ethan said, lowering his voice. "Because it wasn't just any animal, was it? You recognized something when I described it." Maya hesitated. The blue-eyed creature was a mystery and a threat to her pack. "A marriage on paper only," Ethan offered. "Help me find what attacked me, and I'll help you keep your home. After that, we can go our separate ways." The setting sun cast long shadows between them as Maya considered his proposal. A temporary alliance with a perceptive human was dangerous, but losing her territory was unthinkable. 3 days, she finally agreed, extending her hand. When their fingers touched, something unexpected passed between them. A current of warmth neither was prepared for. Maya pulled away first, unsettled by her reaction. What neither noticed was the figure watching from the shadows across the street, eyes glowing an unnatural blue in the gathering dusk. Dusk painted the forest in shades of violet as Maya led Ethan along a narrow trail that few humans had ever walked. Fallen leaves cushioned their footsteps while branches reached overhead like spectral fingers against the darkening sky. "My pack doesn't know about you," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And they won't be happy when they find out." Ethan stumbled slightly on a root, his leg still not fully healed. "You keep saying pack like you're referring to family." Maya shot him a guarded glance. "Something like that." They crested a small rise, and Ethan gasped at the view below. A hidden valley nestled between craggy slopes, dotted with small cabins arranged in a protective circle. Smoke curled from stone chimneys, and figures moved about in the gathering darkness. "Wait here," Maya instructed, placing a firm hand on his chest. "Let me speak to them first." Before Ethan could respond, a tall figure emerged from the trees beside them. A man with the same wild grace as Maya stood with arms crossed, his expression thunderous. "You brought a human to our doorstep," he growled. "Have you lost your mind, Maya?" "Lucas," she addressed him calmly, though Ethan noticed her shoulders tense. "This is Ethan West. He was attacked by something with blue eyes 3 nights ago." Lucas circled Ethan slowly, assessing him with predatory intensity. "And this required bringing him here because in 2 days, I'm being forced to marry him by the settlement council." Maya replied, the words clearly painful to speak aloud. A shocked silence fell between them. Ethan felt the weight of Lucas's stare like a physical force. "You're our alpha," Lucas finally said. "You can't bind yourself to a human." Ethan's mind caught on the word alpha as pieces began clicking into place. Maya's strength, her healing abilities, her connection to these mountains. The impossible truth hovered just beyond his grasp. "It's temporary," Maya insisted. "A solution to keep our territory safe." Lucas laughed without humor. "And does your temporary husband know what he's marrying?" Maya's eyes flashed warning, but it was too late. Ethan stepped forward. "What exactly am I missing?" he asked, looking between them. The forest grew unnaturally quiet. Even the birds ceased their evening calls. "Show him," Lucas challenged. "If you trust him enough to bring him here, show him the truth." Maya closed her eyes briefly, resignation washing over her features. When she opened them again, amber had transformed to molten gold, inhuman eyes that glowed in the twilight. "I'm not what you think I am," she said softly. Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs. Fear and fascination warred within him as understanding dawned. "The werewolf legends," he whispered. "They're not legends at all." Maya nodded once, watching him carefully for signs of panic or disgust. To her surprise, Ethan let out a slow breath. "That explains why your remedies healed me so quickly, why you live apart from town, why this land matters so much to you." "Most humans run screaming when they learn the truth," Lucas remarked, clearly surprised by Ethan's composure. Ethan turned to Maya. "Is this why you agreed to my plan? Because you need to protect your pack's territory?" "Yes," she admitted. "If I'm banished, our protection of these lands weakens." A distant howl cut through the conversation, followed by another, closer and more urgent. Both Maya and Lucas stiffened, instantly alert. "That's Alina's warning call," Lucas said, fear edging his voice. Maya was already moving. "Something's crossed our western boundary." As they rushed toward the valley, Ethan followed, adrenaline masking his pain. Through the trees ahead, he glimpsed a pair of glowing blue eyes, identical to those of his attacker, watching their approach. The creature that had nearly killed him had found them, and it was hunting again. Blue eyes gleamed like cold stars through the darkness, disappearing and reappearing as the creature moved with impossible speed between the trees. Maya pushed Ethan behind her, her body already changing as bones shifted beneath her skin. "Get to the valley," she ordered, her voice deepening as her transformation began. "Lucas, protect him." Before Ethan could protest, Maya launched forward, her human form blurring as she shifted fully into a massive wolf with silver-tipped fur. She moved like living shadow across the forest floor, a predator pursuing another predator. "Come on," Lucas gripped Ethan's arm, pulling him down the slope. "When she's in hunt mode, don't argue." Halfway to the safety of the valley, agonized howls pierced the night, not Maya's voice, but others from her pack. Lucas froze, his expression stricken. "They're being attacked from multiple sides," he whispered. Ethan felt a strange burning sensation spread across his chest where the creature had wounded him days ago. Looking down, he was shocked to see a faint blue glow emanating through his shirt. "Lucas," he said urgently, "something's happening to me." Lucas's eyes widened at the sight. "The mark of the ghost wolf," he breathed. "Impossible. They'd been extinct for centuries." More howls fractured the night, sounds of battle and pain. Without thinking, Ethan turned and ran back toward where Maya had disappeared, ignoring Lucas's shouts behind him. The burning on his chest intensified as he moved through the forest, somehow guiding him like an internal compass. He found Maya locked in combat with a creature that defied description, part wolf, part shadow, with eyes like blue flame. 3 other werewolves lay injured nearby, struggling to rise. Maya stood over them protectively, blood matting her silver-tipped fur. The ghost wolf lunged, its teeth sinking into Maya's shoulder. She yelped in pain, but refused to yield ground. Ethan's mark burned like fire now. Acting on instinct he didn't understand, he tore open his shirt and exposed the glowing blue symbol that had formed over his heart. "Here," he shouted. "I'm the one you marked. I'm the one you want." The creature froze, its unnatural eyes locking onto Ethan. Maya used the distraction to break free, limping as she positioned herself between Ethan and the threat. "Maya, wait," Ethan called. "It's not attacking anymore." The ghost wolf stared at Ethan's glowing mark, then did something that shocked them all. It bowed its head in a gesture of submission. Slowly, painfully, Maya shifted back to human form, clutching her wounded shoulder. "What just happened?" she gasped. "I don't know," Ethan admitted, approaching cautiously as the ghost wolf remained in its submissive posture, but it recognized this mark. With trembling fingers, he reached toward the creature. The moment his hand touched its ethereal fur, visions flooded his mind. Ancient memories of a time when ghost wolves and werewolves were allies, not enemies, guardians of something powerful hidden within the mountain. Ethan pulled back, gasping. "It wasn't hunting us," he said in amazement. "It was testing us. Testing me." Maya staggered to his side, her naked skin pale in the moonlight. Ethan immediately removed his jacket and draped it over her shoulders, his touch lingering longer than necessary. "Why you?" she asked, looking from the ghost wolf to the mark on his chest. "Because he carries old blood," came a new voice from the darkness. An elderly woman emerged from the trees, her eyes the same amber gold as Maya's. "Grandmother," Maya whispered with reverence and shock. The old woman nodded solemnly. "The ghost wolves have returned because the ancient threat stirs beneath our mountain. And this human," she looked directly at Ethan, "is the key to everything." Relevant past chat message. USER. Write, Part 5 to 600 word cinematic passage in simple yet vivid English, using a third-person perspective. The passage should instantly pull the audience into the world, creating an immersive and emotionally gripping experience. Use modern names and do not use capital letters. The story must keep the audience hooked from the first sentence, blending mystery, tension, and wonder to ensure maximum engagement. And little bit romance should be included, but in a respective way. And do not add any adult and violated narration. Ensure the content does not include any violations of community guidelines or inappropriate material. Flames danced in the central fire pit of the pack's gathering hall as Maya's grandmother tended to the wounded werewolves. Ethan sat across from her, the blue mark on his chest, now faintly pulsing like a second heartbeat beneath his skin. "Your blood remembers what your mind has forgotten," the old woman said, her weathered hands mixing herbs in a stone bowl. The West bloodline was never entirely human. Maya paced nearby, her injured shoulder wrapped in healing leaves that gave off a sharp medicinal scent. The ghost wolf had disappeared into the forest after leading them all back to the valley, but its presence lingered like a shadow in their minds. "Grandmother, what ancient threat?" Maya finally asked. "Why now, after centuries of silence?" The old woman, known to the pack as Elder Nora, looked toward Ethan. "Because the settlement has begun digging foundations for their new church, directly above the sealed chamber." Ethan's eyes widened. "The Northern Ridge Project. That's where I was surveying when I was attacked." "The ghost wolf wasn't trying to kill you," Elder Nora explained. "It was marking you as a vessel, a bridge between worlds. The last time humans carried such marks was 500 years ago, when the Great Binding was performed." A tense silence filled the hall. Outside, the moon rose higher, bathing the valley in silver light as pack members maintained vigilant patrols around their territory. Ethan touched the glowing mark gently. "What does it want me to do?" "Renew the binding," Elder Nora said gravely, "which requires something no ordinary human could provide. The blood of mixed lineage, freely given in an act of true sacrifice." Maya stopped pacing, her amber eyes meeting Ethan's across the fire. "The town expects us to marry tomorrow. A union that may serve purposes beyond what either of you imagined." Elder Nora nodded. Lucas, who had been silently listening from the doorway, stepped forward. "You can't seriously consider this, Maya. Marrying a human, even one with trace ancestry, weakens your position as alpha." "I've already been challenged twice this year," Maya admitted to Ethan, a vulnerability in her voice he hadn't heard before. "My leadership is precarious." Ethan rose and crossed to her side, close enough that the warmth of his body mingled with hers. "Then why risk everything to help me?" Maya's expression softened momentarily before she caught herself. "Because whatever sleeps beneath that ridge threatens us all." Elder Nora watched their interaction with knowing eyes. "The ghost wolf chose well," she murmured. "There is already a bond forming between you." Dawn approached, painting the eastern sky with pale fingers of light. Their time was running short. The wedding ceremony would take place at noon. "We need to see what they've uncovered at the dig site," Ethan said decisively, "before we make any decisions about bindings or marriages." Maya nodded in agreement, then suddenly tensed, her heightened senses alerting her before the others heard it. Approaching footsteps, many of them, heading toward the valley. "Humans," she whispered, "armed." Lucas rushed to the window. It's the sheriff and his men. Someone must have followed you here. Ethan felt a wave of guilt crash over him. Had he inadvertently led danger straight to Maya's pack? They can't find us here, Maya said urgently. If they discover what we air. Her words were cut short by a thunderous pounding at the main entrance to the valley. Sheriff Porter's voice carried clearly through the morning air. Maya Knightwood, Ethan West. By order of the town council, present yourselves immediately. The ghost wolf's mark pulsed brighter on Ethan's chest as their time ran out. Whatever ancient power stirred beneath the mountain, it wouldn't wait while they dealt with human complications. The binding and the wedding had suddenly, impossibly, become the same ceremony. Panic rippled through the gathering hall as the sheriff's voice echoed across the valley. Maya exchanged a quick glance with her grandmother, an entire conversation passing between them without words. The back tunnels. Elder Nora nodded, moving with surprising speed for her age. Lucas, get the injured to safety. Maya grabbed Ethan's hand, pulling him toward a heavy tapestry hanging on the wall. Behind it lay a narrow passage carved into the mountain itself. These tunnels run through the entire ridge system, she explained as they hurried through the darkness, her eyes glowing amber while Ethan stumbled behind her. My ancestors built them centuries ago. The mark on Ethan's chest illuminated their path with its eerie blue glow, casting strange shadows on the rough stone walls. Each step they took deeper into the mountain made the mark pulse stronger. It's responding to something, Ethan whispered, his voice echoing softly. We're getting closer to whatever's calling it. They emerged from the tunnel onto a narrow ledge overlooking the northern ridge, where the settlement's new church foundation was being excavated. Dawn light revealed a dozen workers already digging, with Sheriff Porter directing several armed men to spread out around the valley's perimeter. They're searching for us, Maya breathed, but they're also about to break through to something they don't understand. Ethan's mark flared painfully as he looked down at the excavation. There, he pointed to a section where workers were removing large stones. That's not a natural formation. Those are sealed doors. Below them, one of the workers shouted in excitement. The others gathered around as they uncovered what appeared to be an ancient archway embedded in solid rock, covered in symbols that matched the mark on Ethan's chest. We're out of time, Maya said urgently. If they open that seal without the proper binding in place. A rumbling tremor shook the mountain beneath them, dislodging small stones that clattered down toward the excavation. The workers scattered in alarm as more violent tremors followed. It's waking up. Elder Nora's voice came from behind them as she emerged from the tunnel. Centuries of sleep disturbed by human ignorance. The old woman carried a small leather pouch, which she pressed into Ethan's hands. The ceremony cannot wait for human customs. It must be done now, here, where the energies converge. Ethan opened the pouch to find a ceremonial knife with symbols etched into its blade. Understanding dawned in his eyes as he looked at Maya. A binding of blood, he said quietly, between your world and mine. Maya's expression softened as she took his free hand. I never wanted this marriage, she admitted. But now it seems like fate, Ethan finished, surprising her with the certainty in his voice. Another tremor, stronger than before, nearly knocked them from the ledge. Below, the workers fled as Sheriff Porter shouted orders, his voice barely audible above the mountain's rumbling protest. The ghost wolf materialized beside them, its ethereal form shimmering in the morning light. It nudged Ethan toward a flat stone surface that seemed to form a natural altar. The ceremony requires truth, Elder Nora instructed. Speak what is in your hearts while the blood mingles. Ethan looked into Maya's amber eyes, seeing the fierce protector who had saved his life, the reluctant caretaker who had healed him, the woman he had come to admire in ways he hadn't expected. I offer my blood freely, he said, drawing the knife across his palm. Not because I'm forced, but because I choose to stand with you. As their bleeding hands clasped together over the mountain that trembled with ancient power, Maya's heart raced with an emotion she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. And I choose you, she whispered back, not just for my pack, but for myself. Golden light erupted from their joined hands, spiraling upward like liquid fire as their blood mingled on the ancient stone. Ethan gasped as the mark on his chest burned brighter, sending tendrils of blue energy that intertwined with the gold emanating from Maya's palm. "The binding accepts your truth," Elder Nora whispered, awe in her weathered voice. The mountain's trembling subsided as the combined energies shot downward, penetrating rock and earth to reach the sealed chamber below. At the excavation site, the workers and Sheriff Porter stood frozen, faces upturned in disbelief at the supernatural display unfolding above them. "What's happening?" Ethan asked through gritted teeth, the power flowing through him both painful and exhilarating. Maya's eyes glowed brilliant amber as her wolf nature merged with the ancient magic. "We're completing what my ancestors began," she said, "sealing away something that exists between worlds." The ghost wolf circled them, its ethereal form growing more solid with each passing moment. As the binding magic reached its peak, the wolf bowed its head and stepped forward, merging its essence with their joined hands. Memories flooded both their minds, not their own, but those of countless guardians before them who had maintained the delicate balance between realms. Ethan saw Maya's ancestors standing alongside his own, humans and werewolves united in purpose centuries ago. They were partners, he realized aloud, not enemies. Until fear divided them, Maya finished, understanding dawning in her eyes. Below, the ancient archway in the excavation glowed with the same blue-gold light, symbols activating in sequence before the entire structure sealed itself more completely than before, disappearing beneath layers of ordinary stone. The power receded gradually, leaving Ethan and Maya breathless, and still joined by their clasped hands. The ghost wolf had vanished, its purpose fulfilled, its essence now a part of their completed bond. Sheriff Porter's voice broke the silence that followed. What in heaven's name was that? He stood at the base of the ridge, looking up at them with a mixture of fear and wonder. Behind him, the townsfolk and workers whispered among themselves, some making signs against evil, others simply staring in disbelief. Elder Nora stepped forward, her dignified presence commanding attention despite her small stature. "You've just witnessed a wedding, Sheriff," she called down. "An old tradition of these mountains." Ethan felt Maya's fingers tighten around his, not in fear but in solidarity. Together, they descended the path toward the waiting humans, their joined hands still faintly glowing with residual magic. "The council ordered us to marry," Ethan addressed the sheriff calmly. "We've fulfilled that requirement, though perhaps not in the way you expected." A tense silence followed as the sheriff processed what he had seen, what he could not possibly explain through any law or logic he understood. "I suppose," he finally said, removing his hat, "congratulations are in order." Relieved laughter rippled through the crowd, breaking the tension as humans grasped for normalcy in the face of the extraordinary. As the townsfolk slowly dispersed, many still glancing back in wonder, Maya turned to Ethan. The binding had changed something between them, created a connection deeper than either had anticipated. "So," she said softly, a hint of her usual directness returning, "husband." Ethan smiled, reaching up to brush a strand of hair from her face with his free hand. "Wife." The mark on his chest had faded to a silvery scar that matched the one now visible on Maya's palm. Permanent reminders of their unlikely union. "What happens now?" he asked. Maya looked toward the valley where her pack waited and then to the settlement beyond. "We build bridges," she said simply, "between your world and mine." The sun climbed higher as they walked hand in hand between the two worlds they now belonged to. Neither fully human or fully wolf, but something new and powerful that both realms would need in the days to come.